You have these building blocks, people can create these things, and there's sort of, it's trust minimized, but there's also trust there because you know who's participating and they can make decisions together. And then this treasury, you know, that's the other big thing when you think about what is a corporation, right? It's tokens like equity, like influence, voting, decision making, but then oftentimes that voting and decision making is on top of a treasury, right? And so the beautiful thing, I think, is that you guys, like you said, you're able to plug into DeFi. You're able to support stablecoins. I think you guys support a number of stablecoins, but the ability to kind of move dollar value into one of these, to have an individual maybe who is they're getting paid out of the treasury for work they've completed, and people could vote that yes, the work is completed, or other things like that. So how are you bringing together the innovation of stablecoins with with Aragon, digital organizations built with Aragon?
Yeah, it's been world changing for us. Like, we used to, and we still dog food our own product for everything. So like, for example, even payroll comes from one of our DAOs that we have in our team. And so people used to have their payroll in Ether, and Ether used to fluctuate so much. So like, depending on the month, people would like make money or lose money. Stablecoins change all of that. And I think it is so important because ultimately DAOs want to reward people for their work, right? That is the whole point. And you cannot do that in tokens that like fluctuate drastically.
Yeah, totally. So I think there's these bigger concepts, and we touched on that with Jason when we got started. Sort of, if the joint stock corporation and the legal frameworks around that sort of have defined modern capitalism, what's going to define this sort of new digital age? Do you think it's going to be these new decentralized, internet driven distributed organizations like what you guys are enabling?
Yeah, definitely. I think internet communities have been already there for a while, but I think giving them this like unprecedented power to actually take action, manage real funds, and govern all of those together are going to give them a completely new scale. If we look at problems like climate change, it is very hard for a single actor or company or even nation state to tackle these problems. If we had these like supranational, totally global, very low barrier to entry structures, we might have a shot at actually solving these problems.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously this it raises really profound questions, and I think a lot of times, one of the first things people say, well, how do I, if I'm involved in this and someone, steals something or does something wrong, or breaks a covenant, right? We have courts in the real world now. Granted, enforcing something in a foreign jurisdiction in this highly globalized way is difficult. I know last week we had Claris on talking about their decentralized arbitration system. You guys are also really being thoughtful about how can communities self-govern, and do we evolve to a world of decentralized justice system, online courts that are really specific to these digital organizations and the activity that's happening in them?
Yeah, exactly. And the way we look at it is also not even as a standalone product, but something that plugs into the organization itself. Like you can basically have an organization in which you define like an English written agreement, and then that agreement also kind of like complements the smart contracts, because there are a bunch of things that you cannot encode in computer code, right? Like humans are very complex machines. And so Discord enables for stuff like that, can be used for stuff like content moderation, can be used for adding items to lists. We are running now a president campaign in which like we have different Aragon apps that are eligible for some rewards. And then this Aragon, Aragon court is basically deciding like which ones get in or not into that list. So like, it is like baby steps. I don't think it's ready to totally replace a court yet, or it will probably not be for like the next few years, or God knows if it will be, but it is really promising.